I've just kind of made a pact to myself, and now I'm saying it out loud. I don't even know if I've told Kinsey. I've wanted a cowboy hat, but all hat, no cattle. I got to get some livestock before I wear a cowboy hat. That's what I've thought.
Well, but you don't have to have a cowboy hat. I mean, like, this doesn't look really like a cowboy hat.
Right.
It's all in the crease.
Right.
And I am not a cowboy, you know. I mean, I'm not. I mean, I got cows, but I don't.
You're a rancher.
I never had a horse in my life. Don't tell everybody, but it's the truth. I've ridden a bunch of them.
Yeah. You're a rancher, though.
I'm a rancher.
Yeah.
Whether I like it or not.
So maybe I should get the cowboy hat. I have.
But here's the dude. You and I, let's go to the hat shop together.
We'll go to
meet
R&R.
at the Double R.
Yeah, Double R.
They just moved to a new location right on 290.
Yeah.
They're swell people. They are just swell people. And they get it. We burning up time, ain't we? But I got.
We're good. We're good. We're on the clock, and we're good. We got no time cap or anything.
Oh, okay,
like that.
good. So a real quick story, whatever.
Go ahead.
You want to hear this?
Yeah, please hit me.
Story. So I went in there one day, and I had my hat on, and I got my hat is not Cowboys brim style.
This is Double R in Elgin.
Double R in Elgin, where it used to be downtown on Main Street. And my hat didn't look like Roy Rogers or nothing, you know. That's who I grew up with, cowboy. And although I love Roy Rogers and all, but I just didn't have that same crease. I had a different thing. And there was a gentleman out there, or a man, and he had overalls on, and he had a fancy straw hat. And it was all creased and blocked. They block them these days, you know. It's flat here in the front and all this stuff, you know. And he looked at me. And there were some young guys in there, too, Hispanic dudes, you know, whatever. May have worked with him or they all worked together. Or he was the boss. I don't have any idea. I don't know and don't care. And anyway, he looked at me. He said, "What happened to your hat?" Real smart alecky, you know. And I looked at him, you know, like, "Who the hell are you talking to, you know?" And he said, "Looks real funny to me." And the guy at the Double R, whom I know a little bit, you know, because I bought a couple, 3 hats from him, he said, "Oh, he wears that flat style," you know, talking about how I do that.
Yeah.
Trying to cover for me maybe or something, I don't know. And then I waited about a minute and a half, and I said, "What happened to your hat?" And he looked at me. I said, "Looks like somebody shit in it to me." That's what I told him, you know. And he deserved it.
And what happened then?
He shut up.
That was the end of that.
That was the end of that, you know. Smart aleck. I mean,
So that was the end of that.
That was the end of that.
And have you got another hat there since then?
I've got another hat there. I wear hats. I've been wearing hats forever.
So you don't think my self-talk, it doesn't matter. All hat, no cattle, no big deal. I should go get a hat.
Well, I wear a hat to keep the sun off of me in the summer.
Sure.
And to keep my head warm in the winter.
Yeah.
And the sun I got blue eyes, the sun eats me. That's why I just got out of the dermatology office. That's what happened to my little nose here, whatever. And, the sun eats me, so I wear a hat. I've been wearing a hat forever. I got another hat story if you want to hear it.
Bring it. Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. So this is years and years and years ago, and I lived up in Washington State, and I worked in the summertime up there at a peak cannery when I was in college. It's eons ago. And right before going into the mountains, my old girlfriend, Kathy Jo Wood, and Jimmy Coon, James Alonzo Coon, the boy that I went to college with, a friend of mine, we went into the Wanaha to go trout fishing, backpacking and trout fishing. That's where Chief Joseph and the Nuss Pierce used to hang out, you know. So we went into the mountains and went trout fishing and had a blast and caught some trout. Boy, they're delicious. And I met this old boy up there in the mountain named Mabon Cornwell. And Mabon Cornwell was a genuine mountain man. A little bitty guy like me, but just tough as a boot, man. I mean, just tough. Ex-Marine fella and all. And anyhow, we got to talking and hit it off and this, that, and the other. Next thing I know, he offers me this job wrangling horses for him during elk season because he would pack in hunters from near and far that could afford to pay him for him to help them go kill an elk. Mm-hmm. And so he offered me this job wrangling horses for him during elk season and was going to pay me $15 a day and all I could eat. Shoot, I'd have done it for free, you know. He just didn't know that. That was a great opportunity to spend some time in the mountains, you know. So I did that. I went into the mountains with Mr. Cornwell, Mabon Cornwell, and his uncle and his team of people that worked with these horses and all, you know. And so lo and behold, I had this new XXX beaver hat back when an X meant something in a hat, way back when. There was only 10 X's. You know, nowadays you can get 200X hat. That doesn't mean nothing. You know, that means nothing. It really doesn't, really. I beg your pardon. Anyhow, and so, but an X used to be an X. You know, 10X is all you could get. I had a XXX beaver hat, used to charge $10 an X. 10X is $100 a hat. That's a long time ago. Anyhow, so lo and behold, I got up in the mountains and all that stuff, and we'd get up 3 o'clock in the morning, pack those horses up, put those dudes on those horses, all the gear and grub and stuff, and pack it down. We had a camp at the top of Hoodoo Trail. And we would go down the mountain and all, you know, and hit the river and go down the river. And Cornwell had spike camps out on both sides of the river. He had a permit and had spike camps out, and that's where he would put these dudes that would go elk hunting. And so a big Chinook wind came through, which is a high, warm wind, and it would melt the snow in the trees. There's snow everywhere up there. And so it's like it's raining all the time. Well, boy, howdy. You have your hat on, and, you know, you got it down tight a little bit, and you're all kind of buttoned up because it's cold. And sooner or later, my hat started leaking here on the front where it would come off at the front, you know, and then sooner or later, you know, it got the crown wet, and it would start going down my neck, you know, which was not comfortable. And it wasn't the way it's supposed to be, if you ask me.
Right.
Excuse me again. And so anyhow, ended up, we would come up Elk Flats Trail. We put spent horses at the corral at Elk Flats Trail and then bring fresh horses around to Hoodoo Trail so we'd have fresh horses for the next day. All right, so all that being said, somebody had killed an elk and we had quartered it and hauled it out, you know, packed it out for whomever the hunters were. And that's how we did all that, and we ate the heart and the liver and all that in the camp, and they got to take all the meat home. And so lo and behold, somewhere down the trail, another group of individuals or somebody was camped out there, his public lands, and Cornwell's old hound dog, he had a hound dog there that was his pet. He didn't even hunt him anymore. He lived on the porch, and Cornwell said, I'll feed him steak bones till he dies, you know, whatever.
Right.
You know, he went down to that other camp, and lo and behold, somebody had killed an elk down there, and they hadn't hung it properly. You got to hang it in the tree, or a bear will get it, or a coyote, or a wolf, or a mountain lion. Who knows? We're in the woolly world out there. It's out there. Anyhow, this dog got into that elk, and the guys that were camped there, they scared the dog off, but they shot it on its exit with a shotgun with birdshot in it.
The dog.
They shot the dog with birdshot in it, and it didn't kill him, but it didn't help his rear end or his man structure out very well there, you know. And so me being the short end of the totem pole, Cornwell sure wasn't going to send the cook into town with the dog to the vet, so he sent me the horse boy, you know. I was the horse wrangler. So I went into Walla Walla and to take the dog to the vet and whatever. So I'm thinking I left the dog there for him to examine the dog and get the pellets out of his testicles and his rear end and whatever and all, you know. I said, well, shoot, man, I'm going to go to the hat shop and show about this hat here that's leaking, you know. Jiminy Cricket, it's brand spanking new. So I go to it's Porter's New York store. It was the name of the store. Mm-hmm. And I went into the store, and Mr. Porter was there. And he said, what can I do for you? You know, I said, well, Mr. Porter, I said, I don't know how to say this so much. I said, but I got this hat from you about 2-3 weeks ago. I said, and it leaks. He said, it leaks. I said, yeah. He said, what do you mean? And so I told him the story about being in the mountains and the Chinook wind and the snow and all that. And I said, and it leaks, you know, on the front and down here and all that and all, you know. He said, let me look at it. Well, he took the hat off and looked at it and everything, you know. He said, let me tell you. He said, if you were to go across the street to Soper's, that's another cowboy store, used to be downtown Walla Walla, maybe still is. He said, and you bought a 10X Beaver Stetson hat. He said, and if you stayed out in the rain long enough, it would leak. I said, well, wait a minute. I said, what's the name of this hat? He said, well, that's a Resistol hat. I said, well, what does that say? He said, what do you mean? I said, that leads me to believe it would resist all. And he said, oh, it kind of caught him, you know. He said, well, wait a minute. He gave me the hat back, and he went to the back of the store, and he came back out from the back of the store with one of those plastic hat covers, you know. And he gave it to me.
Like a trash sack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said, you put that on there, it'll never leak again. I said, by gosh, I think you're right. Thank you. And he gave me that.
That was it.
Yeah.
And he gave it to you.
Yeah.
And did it work?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a raincoat.
There you go. That is a good one.
That's the truth.
Resist all.
Resist.
That caught him off guard, didn't it?
Well, that's what it says. Resist all.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Better be true to the advertising.
Lord have mercy.
Did you guys have a good time up there?
I
in the
did. I
mountains?
had a blast. Lord, I mean, I was in hog heaven. I rode bareback the whole time. I thought I was a dang Indian, you know.
That's a long way from Page, Texas.
That's a long way from Page, Texas, son.
That is a long way from
It may
this
not
neck
be
of the
long,
woods.
far enough, but it's a long way.
Fair enough.
Anyway, no, yeah, it was a real pleasure to be in the mountains. And Cornwell was a hunter. He was an outdoorsman and all, you know. He hunted with hounds and what have you and all. He killed the oldest sow bear in Wallowa County the year before that hunting season.
So he was local fame.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He was a local guy. He lived in Troy right there it wasn't but two houses there, I think. We're out there in the bush, you know. And good fishing, man. I mean, you get steelhead come up there, you know. Anyhow, Cornwell, he had killed the oldest sow bear in Wallowa County the year before, and that's the meat we were serving in the base camp where we were. And it was so good, nobody ever asked what it was. You know, we're in the mountains, everything tastes better, you know. Excuse me again. Anyhow, I could tell you more stories. We shanghaied a cook out of the mountains named John Arment. His name was Big John. He was a huge man. And he and his uncle had a camp up at Elk Flats where that corral was, where we would put the spent horses there. And we got to talking to them in Cornwell, and they were real nice and hospitable. They said, well, come have a cup of coffee over here. We went over there and had a cup of coffee, you know, and shot the breeze, and found out that Big John, was a cook offshore Texas and Louisiana in the oil business, in the oil industry, on those drilling rigs out there. We said, shoot, man, this guy can cook, man. We need to talk to him. Well, we made him a deal, $15 a day and all he could eat. We shanghaied him out.
So he was happy about that.
So he came and cooked for us in our base camp.
Well, there's some lucky folks up in the mountains to be eating some food prepared by somebody that knows how to cook like that.
Yeah, he was, I mean, shoot.
That's the best, because you are a Louisiana guy.
I'm bred, born in Louisiana, you know.
That's your youth was spent in the backwoods of Louisiana. Is that right?
That's back swamps. Yeah, that's right. And thank God I made it to Texas. I couldn't have gotten here any sooner.
That's good. And from there in Louisiana to here where we are today on your ranch in Bastrop County and Lee County, you've been a lot of places in between.
I've been a lot of places. I love the world. I love people. I love food. I love to fish. I like good stuff.
So we're going to get to your place in Lee County and Bastrop County, but
yes, sir.
Take me back to when you were old enough to know better, too young to care, and you set off by pedal, and you went on the bike tour.
That's the truth. Yeah, well, one evening over dinner, my wife, who is a Texan, she and I got to talking about Belize, British Honduras. And I'd been down there a lot of times. I've driven down there. I've hitchhiked down there. I've rented planes and trains and buses and God knows what all. I've been down there every way you can imagine because it's great fishing. and the people speak English, And so anyhow, we were having dinner and probably had one glass of wine too much, or maybe not, but we decided, we ought to bike Belize. And somehow that stuck somehow. We didn't even own bicycles at the time.
And where were you at? Were you here in Austin?
We're in Bossier City, Louisiana. Yeah, I met my wife. She came to Louisiana to work. She's from Austin all the way through high school, whatever, and then went away to college. But anyhow, Lord, don't get me started talking about that nonsense. But yeah, so I went out and bought us 2 mountain bikes and got them decked out for road travel, and we left Austin on bicycles on 969, headed, gosh darn, Tierra del Fuego.
And you said we're going to bike all the way there.
No, that wasn't the plan. The plan was to bike Belize. That's what we wanted.
That's a long way.
Well, that's true, but we weren't going to pedal the whole way. We were just going to bike Belize. That was our idea. But we had a choice. We could either fly to Belize with the bicycles and do Belize and then off the bikes or bring them home or whatever and then come back and do Mexico.
Yeah.
Or we could do Mexico and then get to Belize and then figure out what to do with the bicycles. And being that we were not bicyclists at the time,
right,
we decided we better just start pedaling from Austin so we could learn about the bikes and stuff and ways and means of that. And we could still call somebody if we got into dire straits.
Right.
And so that's what we did. We headed out on those bicycles, and son, we bucked the wind every day except for the last day, and we biked from Austin to Bastrop to Houston to Corpus to McAllen, I reckon it was, Reynosa. And that was back in the day when people were just learning about cholesterol and salt intake and stuff. Let me tell you, man, at the end of the day, we could have eaten them bicycles and it wouldn't have bothered us one bit. I promise you, you'd sweat. We would sweat so much and drank water the whole time, had water bottles everywhere, and never urinated. We would sweat out or.
And then, so you're on bike.
Excuse me.
And how long did it take you to get back to America?
Well, what we did is we went down to the frontier and we did a little bit of volunteer service work through the Presbyterian Church. That's our faith. And that was rewarding. Met a lot of really, really good United States citizens and a lot of really fine Mexican people. And through that offer, that service, and it's not out there choking them with religion, whatever, in the Presbyterian angle. It's a matter of helping them build a better life. And so we did that, scraped a lot of paint and gave out toothbrushes and whatever, fixed plumbing and did whatever stuff and all. And so we decided that we weren't trying to prove something by being tough bicyclists. We wanted to bike Belize, and it's dangerous on the frontier of Mexico. It always has been. It's real dangerous now because of the cartels and all that jive, but this was before cartels ever showed up. It was just, you got all those bus drivers and you got all that transportation for the maquiladores down there. And that's the companies, corporations, and assembly plants that put together everything from fishing lures to vacuum cleaners to sewing machines to weed eaters to you name it. They assemble it. They don't build the parts, but they put the parts together, and they're called maquiladores. And so because of that, you got a lot of transportation, a lot of movement along the border, and it's dangerous to be on a bicycle out there.
Yeah.
So we said, the heck with this. We're not trying to kill ourselves. We're just trying to have some fun. So we carried the bikes with us pretty much throughout Mexico, taking them out of the bus or the train or the whatever periodically, and we would bicycle and all, an off story, if you want to hear it.
Let's hear it.
I could talk to a telephone pole, but we were getting on the train headed down to Mexico City, and so we got in line and we had our tickets and all this stuff, and we'd already taken our backpacks. That's what we had, and put them on the train, and I don't remember either. I think I had the bikes, and we were in line, And we got up to the conductor and all to get on board, and I gave him the tickets and all. And he said, well, look, he said, it's all in Spanish, of course. He said, you know, the tickets are fine, and you and your wife can get on the train. He said, but those bicycles aren't getting on the train. Mm. I said, well, wait a minute, man, we got to have these bicycles, you know. They're my best Spanish. I said, this is part of the deal. He said, the bicycle ain't going. I said, wait a minute, man. And there was a young man behind me. I think he was probably a student, maybe in the United States, and was going back home to visit with his family or something. And he said, offer him a little money. And this is where I learned about what they call the la mordida. That is the bite. They will put the bite on you.
Okay.
And I said, okay, Mr. Senior Conductor, I said, could I offer you a little money to get the bikes on? And I gave him $5 or something. He said, no problem, you know. And that's what we learned
that
about
was it.
La Mordida.
That'll do it.
So we ended up at Belize, and we biked Belize. We did. It was a wonderful adventure. So we pushed up some hills and whatever. But it was a great adventure, and then we brought the bikes back, and then we continued south on buses and trains and any and every form of travel you can imagine.
And this wasn't some little holiday. I mean, you guys were gone for years.
We were gone 7 years, shy of 2 months.
That's a long time.
No, excuse me, 2 weeks, shy of 2 weeks.
That's a lot. That's a long trip.
That's a long trip.
A lot longer than you had anticipated it being when you left.
Yeah, maybe. We didn't have any real anticipations. I'd sold my house. That was our money. We weren't wealthy, United States citizens, whatever. And I've wanted to do something like that for a long time.
Yeah.
Not having a set date to come back, you know, because, you've traveled, you get out there, and, man, right about when it starts getting really, really good, it's time to go home.
Right.
And invariably, you're leaving whenever, day after tomorrow, whatever, and somebody will say, man, if you were just going to be here next week, this is going on and that, and oh man, tomorrow even, this is happening. And it used to just turn me upside down because I had to go back to school or work, or he didn't have any money left or whatever. And it's time to go back and either work, make some more money, or go back to school and try to learn something else. And so finally, we just took off with no end in sight. And there's a lot of stories there.
Where'd you go besides Belize and Mexico?
Well, we went to every country in Central America. We didn't go to El Salvador. We had a layover there one time. They were having some real problems there. And we didn't go to Panama because that's when Noriega and the United States government, military, whatever, were having problems. Mm-hmm. We didn't need to get in with any of that problem whatsoever. So we just skipped that. But then we went to Colombia, and we went to Ecuador and Peru and Bolivia, Chile, Argentina, Paraguay. Then we went to Brazil. And we went to Venezuela.
Yeah.
And
what was the last place you ended up at before you headed back?
Well, we headed back from Cairo, Egypt.
Cairo, Egypt.
Yeah.
It's a long way from here too. Did you go to the pyramids?
No.
No?
I'm one of the only people you ever meet in your life been to Cairo and never saw a pyramid.
Well, that's okay.
But
there's always next time, next trip.
Yeah, there's a story there too, of course, but there's a reason we didn't do that.
What's the reason? If you care to share.
I don't care. I mean, hell, I got nothing to hide. No, I got sick. That's what happened. I got my kidneys went haywire. Yeah, I don't know, man.
You're in Cairo, enjoying your time, and you get sick.
No, I was sick when I hit Cairo.
Okay.
You asking for trouble.
Well, you don't.
I got stories longer than our legs, But anyway, we spent a year in Africa. Okay. We went in a nutshell. You want to know about this trip, if I can do it in a nutshell, yes. Because there's a gillion stories there. But we went, from South America, and then we had to come back for a wedding. My wife's little brother, he went to college. He graduated from UT, and then he went to Rutgers on a scholarship and went to law school up there. He married a gal. He married a Jersey girl up there. And she's in law school, too, up there. And so he was going to get married up there, and he wanted my wife to participate in the wedding. And so that is not anywhere close to what I wanted to do, is come back for, that
wedding.
thing and so forth. I wanted to go back over to Ecuador, get on a sailboat and go out to Tahiti and then go to South Pacific. That was my idea. Anyhow, we came back for the wedding and all, bought an old secondhand Volvo car, drove it to the West Coast, put an ad in the paper before we got there, sold it when we got there and flew to New Zealand. We spent a year in New Zealand. We bought an old car there, Mars 1100. The kids and younger people call it the land crab because it sits up like a crab and walks on the beach, whatever. That's how those cars look. And then we went to Australia. We spent a year in Australia. We bought a Bedford camper van there, $1,300. And then from there we went to Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Bangkok, Cambodia. We went to Burma. And then we flew to India. We flew to New Delhi, and then we went to Nepal, and then we went to Africa. We spent a year in Africa, and then we came back from Cairo. And somewhere when we were in the area of Northeast Africa, I think what was the name of it? It was Eritrea or Ethiopia. It's pretty rough conditions over there, hygienically speaking, in some of those villages and places, and with no disrespect to the people, of course. But anyhow, the hygiene there was a little bit low. And we've been a long way in a lot of places, and we've never been sick. We never got sick. Nancy got a cold in India, but we never, ever got sick. And so anyhow, a fly flew into my mouth. And no telling where that fly had been hanging out, walking around and everything. And I didn't think anything about it. I spit it out, of course, but if I'd have got a shot of whiskey or something and washed my mouth out, it may have saved me a lot of trouble because ended up, I got sick, man. My kidneys quit functioning. And we ended up going up through Eritrea and Ethiopia. We went over to Saudi Arabia. They don't allow tourists in Saudi Arabia, period. And but we couldn't we took the boat over the Suez Canal, and we couldn't get a boat out, so we had to spend the night. And there's a story or two there. We got befriended by an Egyptian Islamic guy, whom I think was an angel, man. He just came to us and helped us a lot. Anyhow, and I went to the doctor there and yada, yada, enchilada, a lot of stories and back and forth and all. Then I ended up going to Cairo, and lo and behold, went to the doctor to get checked out and all. Well, they put my little hind in the hospital. Hello? And nothing against those people either, but it was, it was well-appointed, nice, clean hospital and everything, but it was a little bit rough on the conditions. They'd come in and take your temperature, take your blood pressure, and heartbeat and yak, 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 and walk out the door and leave the thermometer in your mouth. You can go, well, hey, what about this here? And they go, oh, yeah, all right. Anyway, I got out of the hospital, and I called a friend of mine that's a doctor, and he talked to a friend of his that was a doctor from Egypt, heart transplant specialist guy. And he said, look, when we're over there, my friend's telling me, I talked to him, and he told me that when they're over there, they get sick, they come over here, and you better get your butt home before they kill you. I said, well, thank you very much. So that's how we came back.
Heard. And to wrap that up, what decade was that? When was that era?
Yeah, I think we came back in about 1996.
About 1996?
Yes.
Okay. So that's a long, windy road to get to Page and Bastrop, and I know there were places and stops and sights to see between Cairo and where you're at today. But there's a lot of you're, among other things, now you're a rancher, among other things.
Yeah.
And you're a world traveler, and so there's a lot of world travelers and there's a lot of ranchers. There's not a lot of ranchers that are also world travelers that have been all around. So you've got an interesting perspective. And so you enjoyed traveling, obviously, and it shapes who you are and what you do, just like, when all of us, we travel, we see things and learn new experiences.
Good education.
No doubt. So do you feel like you still get some of that education on the ranch? Anything can teach us things about life, but traveling is one of those things. Ranching is another. Do you think you still get some education from life on ranching when you ranch?
Well, sure. I mean, you learn about the animals. I was not born into a farming, ranching family. I mean, my grandparents did, but I never even met them. They died before I was born on both sides. But anyhow, well, sure, you learn about life and you learn about nature and you learn about taking care of animals, and that's important too. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of importance there. And somewhere along the line, I learned about nutrition, and I learned about taking care of the earth and not abusing the earth. And so that's how I got into farming and ranching, is through nutrition. I can't speak English, as you notice. Anyhow, that's that Louisiana in me. But anyhow, so that's how I got into growing things on the farm and the ranch, is from a nutritive, if that's the right word, aspect or a point.
Right.
Because if I can't grow it where it's healthy for me and healthy for you and healthy for others, I'm not going to eat it, and I'm not going to sell it, and I'm not going to grow it. Mm-hmm. It's got to be top flight. Mm-hmm. That's just who I am, what I am. And there's always room at the top. So that's what I did. When I first started growing blueberries, that's where I got started with. I got certified organic and produced a good crop of blueberries. They were excellent. And then as it rocked along and everything, I learned about biodynamics, which is an upgraded form of organic growing. And for instance, when I was growing the blueberries organically with only organic inputs and information and processes, I got a Brix level, B-R-I-X. That's a calibration for sweetness that can be calibrated or measured with a Brix meter or a refractometer, of which I have one that's made in Japan and it has good optics, and I've had it for 25 years. I bought it in San Antonio at Acres USA conference down there.
Okay.
Anyhow, but when I was only doing organically, which is all I knew about, I had an old girlfriend that was a nutritionist, and she taught me a few things and all. And then I learned about biodynamics, and I got introduced to that through the Waldorf school system. There were some people that worked at the Waldorf school system, which also was incorporated through Rudolf Steiner, who came up with biodynamic practices in agriculture and farm and ranching, whatever. And, excuse me, and anyhow, I went from a Brix level of 14 using organic standards and processes and all, which is quite good, to as high as 19 using biodynamic techniques and practices and procedures and all. And that's off the chart. I mean, that's the difference between organic and biodynamic. It's about nutrition, it's about flavor, it's about density, nutrient-dense foods, and it's about shelf life. It's about a better product. So that's what I got into 20-something years ago, and that's the way I've raised beef. That's the way I raise garden. That's the way I live. That's what I do. I'm 77 years old. Boom. It frightens me to think about that, but that's the truth. But I can still probably do 10 or 15 one-arm push-ups on each arm.
I believe that.
It's the truth.
I believe it. And maybe we could put a wager on it here.
Well,
we better not. We better not.
but anyway, I might faint. Who knows? But anyway,
you may get rich today if we do that.
I'm going to a reunion before long over in Louisiana, and I may make $1 on that.
There
deal.
you
yeah.
go. Pay for the trip. That's good.
Yeah. But anyway, I don't know how we got whatever, but that's how I got into farming and ranching. And then, from the blueberries, I got a cow-calf pair. We got 72 acres in Bastrop County. That's where we live. And then I started raising cattle. What the heck? Why not? You got 70-something acres. It's almost sinful not to use it and do something with it, I think. So I got into doing the biodynamic thing and started selling a little bit of beef just in like boxes and, quarters and pieces and parts and what have you and all, And I did that for a while. And then I learned about Irish Dexter cattle. And they're small. Irish Dexters are the smallest frame cow not classified as a miniature.
That's what you run.
That's what I have. That's exactly right. Every single cow we have is Irish Dexter.
And why do you like the Irish Dexter? Why do you like the Irish Dexter breed?
Well,
Because you don't see a lot of Irish Dexter cattle around
no,
this
you
area,
don't,
do you?
and that's fine. But it is not about quantity. It's quality.
There you go.
And I've been told a lot that it's the best beef they've ever tasted in their lives.
Yeah.
I got stories about that too, of course.
And it is, and I've had some.
It's top flight.
I can vouch. It is delicious. It's an understatement.
And it's all guaranteed. If it is not top flight flavor and quality, their money can be taken back. But that's me. But anyhow, no, I mean, I'm not saying I'm better than anybody because I'm not. I'm just me. But I'm picky. I know what good is. I've traveled 60 countries in the world, and I've lived in a couple other than this one. And I know what it can be. I know, I go out and eat cheeseburger here or there sometimes, and it ain't the same.
Yeah.
But you do the best you got to work with. But we are what we eat.
There you go.
So that's how I got into doing biodynamics, and I got Demeter certified. As I brought this to show you, whatever.
Let's talk about the Demeter certification.
Okay, sure.
So what is the Demeter certification? By the way, I think that you are the only or one of a handful of the only Demeter certified farm and ranches in the state of Texas. And it's a big state, and there's a lot of farms and ranches. So what is the Demeter certification, and how do you go about acquiring it?
Well, it's not that hard to acquire. I mean, it's just like being certified organic. It just has a few different standards. It's a different way of doing it a little bit. And as I like to look at it, it is an upgraded form of organic growing and living. And it is a set of standards that is set by the Demeter Association, which is the only body that is allowed on Earth to certify Demeter products and Demeter processes, biodynamic processes and procedures, and it goes through the Demeter Association. There is a main office in the state, in the country of the United States, but the main office is in Switzerland. It's big league. It is big league, and it's a worldwide process. It's just not very well known because it's not taught in ag colleges yet, and it's just not mainline. Mm-hmm. But I think it's better. I believe it's better.
Mm-hmm. So if you could, what is the difference between organic or Demeter or biodynamic ranching, the type of ranching that you do, versus the type of ranching that somebody who does not do these practices do? What's the difference? Can you explain that to me?
Well, it's a lot of difference there, and it's a lot of, some people like Chevrolets and some people like Fords, whatever. But, and some people, they don't care. They're just raising cattle. They don't care about the nutrition or the goodness of the product. They're not even eating that beef. They don't eat their own beef. They don't eat their own corn. They don't eat their own whatever in the Sam Hill they're growing. And that's okay, too, if that's what they want to do. But if they did want to eat it, I think they would want to eat something that wouldn't be bad for them. And in my opinion, I think some of these chemicals that are put on some of these crops and some of these whatever, cows eat grass, cows eat whatever. I mean, they feed them soybeans and what the heck else is it? It's soybeans and every other kind of bean. There's some of those feedlots feed something else besides soybeans.
So a lot of it is having to do with what the cattle eat.
Of course.
And so therefore the way that you tend to the land,
yes,
the preparations you put onto the earth, the soil that you're letting your cattle eat.
Yes.
And so that has to do with the biodynamic side of things.
Yeah, that's what it does, or organic, either one. The deal is there's no chemicals, no insecticide, no pesticide, no growth hormones, and in many cases there are no vaccinations. Mm-hmm. It just depends on how a person wants to do it. It's a personal preference.
Right.
And it's not for everybody, and that's fine. But I know, and nothing against anybody, period, But I know I'll tell you a brief little story, whatever. Here I am at the farmer's market here downtown Austin, and I had this lady come to me one time, and she said, look, I just bought 2 osso buco. That's the flank meat, not the flank, but the leg meat of a cow with the marrow bone in it, shank, as you might call it. And it's a delicious dish because of the marrow and everything. She said, I just bought 2 osso buco from XYZ. And they've raised fine cattle, too. I know the people. We all know each other. And I said, well, she said, I want 2 more, though, and she doesn't have any more. I said, okay, let me see what I got. So I went over there to my cooler, and I got 2 osso buco, and I put them behind my back, kind of playing a little bit, And I said, okay, so here's the deal. I said, I'm going to let you have this osso buco. I said, but you can't let it know that you're cooking it with that other stuff. Of course, she laughed a little bit and everything, She said, okay. So she paid me for the osso buco. She came back the next week, and come to find out, this lady is a noted nutritionist here in Austin. She knows a lot about what she's saying. She's probably 39, 40 years old maybe. And she said, let me tell you. She said, that beef is the best I've ever seen, tasted, cooked, smelled, or eaten in my life. And I said, thank you very much. I think you're on to something. And the beef that she had bought was some kind of fine beef, too. Don't kid yourself. But it's not fed the same things, and it's also finished on corn or soybeans. Cows aren't supposed to eat corn or soybeans. Anyway, that's the way it is. So that's what we do. We grow grass for the cows.
Yeah.
The cows eat the grass.
Yeah.
The good thing about our ranch, here we go, our ranch deal, is that when we got the place, we employed Bill Carr. He's a noted botanist here in Central Texas. I think he lives in Austin. Fine fella, very well educated, very well known in his business. Mm-hmm. We hired him to come out to the ranch to tell us what grew there. We're interested because if we needed to plant some more grasses, we would. Mm-hmm. Anyway, he was flabbergasted. This old ranch belonged to a German family that got off the boat back whenever. And it was, 600-700 acres.
This is the place in Lee County.
This is our place.
Lee County pasture that's for sale.
That's exactly right. Anyway, he inspected the place to tell us what was there. Well, he was flabbergasted. He said, man, I'm amazed. He said, you have, I don't know how many, but it ended up, we counted all of them, I think 121 varieties of grasses and other flora and fauna, and a few exotics that blow in or come in with the birds, or the big rain might wash some seeds down the pike, Anyway, he said, this is what the buffalo used to eat right here. So that's what we've been doing with that place. We've been nurturing that place with biodynamic and organic inputs to the soil, and we have made it a lot better. And so that's what the cows get to eat. And it makes for excellent beef.
And, when you go out to that place, which I've spent a fair bit of time at,
yes, sir,
you can really feel it. You can see it with your own 2 eyes, the diversity of the flora out there. I mean, there is a lot going on in a great way. It looks great.
It's different.
It is different, but it's in a good way. It's beautiful to see.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot packed into that 56 acres.
So I got one for you, and I hope these people don't mind me telling this story because it's a recent story. Imagine that. This was about maybe a month and a half ago. My phone rings. Mm-hmm. I looked down at the caller ID. It said Italy on it, or Rome, Italy.
Okay.
And normally I wouldn't even answer it. That looks fictitious to me. I mean, I know a couple of people in Italy, but none of them are going to be calling me probably. And but I answered it, and it was a young woman, sounding very professional, and she told me that she worked with XYZ, whatever, production company, and that they wanted to come to our ranch and interview Bill Meemaw. I hope you don't mind me using your name, but I'm going to tell the truth. This is the truth. They wanted to interview Bill Meemaw. And I said, oh, well, all right. She said, we want to interview you too, but the real interview is with him. I said, fine. Whatever you want to do is fine with me. She said, okay. So we set a date. And lo and behold, The rest of that week got burned up doing whatever. That next Monday, she called me. She said, I'm in Austin, downtown in the library on the top floor. I said, well, it's a good view from there. Mm-hmm. And so she said, are you ready? I said, yeah. So we made plans to meet, I think at 2:30 or 3 o'clock at the Whoop Stop. That's on Highway 21. You and I met there many a time.
Sure.
Or a few times. And we met, and I met the lady that is the director of the film company. I met her cameraman, who was from Northern England. I met her daughter, who is the lady that called me from Rome. And I met a gentleman there that was a helper with the crew. And then I met the driver, who was also a helper. And he was from Iran, of all places. And so we all chit-chatted briefly and all, got in my truck, and they followed me to the ranch. So we got to the ranch, went through the corral there, not the corral, but through the entry gate, mm-hmm. 2 gates there, and parked. Of course, here come the cows. They want to see what's going on. They're pretty tame, actually. And so we shot the breeze for a little while, and then this gentleman gets out of the car, Bill McCranie, and he, to me, looked like he was 65, 70 years old. I can't tell how old anybody is anymore. And so they looked around. They said, well, look, we want to set up on the other side of the corral and shoot an interview. I said, okay. I said, good. So I let them through the corral, shut the gate so the cows wouldn't get in and all. They set up a big old microphone over there. And a couple of cameras, and maybe 3, a still camera and a couple of movie cameras and some sound equipment and whatever. And they got some kind of a barrel and turned it over. Bill McCranie sat on that, and he had a vest on and nicely dressed, clean gentleman or whatever and all, and not city clothes, whatever. And they interviewed him for about 40 or 45 minutes, I would guess. And I heard some of it, not all of it, but I heard some of it. The wind was blowing, and I had chores to do and stuff and all, And so after they finished interviewing him, they interviewed me across the fence. I just had my elbows on the fence line, and there they are taking, cranking the camera.
Right.
And they're asking me questions about my farming practices and my ranching practices and yada, yada, whatever, and biodynamic this and that and all, Well, and then after that happened, by the way, when that was going on, I could see Mr. Meemaw, in agreement with some of the things I was saying and everything and all, And so, anyhow, I rocked along. And then after that, my little interview thing, I was talking with him across the fence. And they enjoyed that kind of because he and I were cutting up. We got along real well. He's got a green-built house, and I do too, and this, that, and the other, and whatever all. And so we talked about farming practices, about my neighbors, and I told them, I said, with all due respect, I said, my neighbors, bless them, but they pretty much adhere to whatever they learned from the county agent. I said, and the county agent is probably been educated at a college or university where there are a lot of chemicals influence on the practices of the farming and ranching that are learned through this agricultural college. And he said, yeah, that's the way it is with most colleges in the USA these days. He said, and furthermore, he said, most of the medical schools are owned by the pharmaceutical companies. And I'm going, well, that's probably some truth to that too, So anyhow, we all laughed and giggled and talked and all this baloney and all. Well, come to find out, this guy, Bill McCranie, he's a Nobel Prize winner.
Wow.
He's a Nobel Prize winner, and he is a world authority on global warming and advisor to nations and presidents and God knows whom all.
Yeah.
And they wanted to come to Texas because Texas, to do this documentary, and that's just a part of it. They're interviewing people all over the world about this thing. It's a big deal, evidently. But we're the only Demeter certified biodynamic farm in Texas. That's the truth. There's other people that put some preps out and do some stuff and may be getting certified, but right now we're it, whatever that's worth. And so that all being said, that's why they chose our farm, our ranch to do that at, which makes me feel nice. And heck, Bill McCranie and we've become friends. He's a good guy, So, bam, that was interesting.
That seems like a big deal.
It's a big deal.
And people coming to see just what exactly you're doing out there, because it sounds like that the biodynamic and the regenerative way of ranching has become more popular over the last, in the recent past.
Yeah.
And you've been at this for a long time.
I've been at it a long time. And I truly, and I'm not, I'm pretty well versed in it. I've been doing it, and I've been to lots of conferences and a lot of workshops, and I go by the book.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way of the future. A lot of this, and nothing against anybody. I'm not trying to put my finger on anybody's practice.
It's your opinion. That's okay.
Yes, that's my opinion. And I believe it to be true because I think and believe wholeheartedly that a lot of this chemical influence and influx into the food system is not good for us. It's not good for the human beings to eat. It's not good for the animals to eat. We eat the animals and so forth and so on. It's not good for the soil because the chemicals kill what God put into the soil to make things grow, which is microbes and earthworms and whatever is in the soil. That's what is supposed to make things grow. Well, lo and behold, you introduce chemicals into the soil, it kills the natural life into the soil, and it addicts the soil and whatever's grown into it into the chemical life. It addicts that into the chemicals. And if you don't put chemicals out on it, it doesn't grow. And thereby, and it kills, you look at some of these corn crops and stuff out there, there ain't nothing but corn out there. There ain't any weeds, there's no flowers, there is nothing but corn. And then when you take the corn away, there's a lot of erosion. And so a lot of the topsoil goes adios, downhill, bye-bye. And that's what's happening all over the world. It's not just in the United States. Well, that's not a way to farm and ranch. We're ruining some of the natural resources that were put here to grow stuff.
Mm.
So that's kind of in a nutshell, but that's what organic and biodynamic and the like of kind of farming and ranching and just growing whatever, anything from radishes to whatever, milk cows.
Sure.
That's
Herd.
That's right. That's the way it is.
Chickamaw.
Chickamaw.
What does that mean?
That's I like indigenous things.
Because you've got the Chickamaw Farm, Ranch, and Wildlife. That's your operation. So what does that mean?
Well, Chickamaw is a Choctaw name, word, whatever. It means good, native, or spiritual land. And I took that name years and years ago. I used to raise leopard dogs, Catahoula dogs, and show them and do some stuff and all, and I had time to do all that. And I selected that name because the indigenous people got the Catahoula or the leopard dog breed going here in the United States between them and the Spaniards that brought a dog with them when they came over as the conquistadores. Anywho, so I kept that name and used that name for our farm and ranch. And, I threw wildlife on there because I'm a nature lover and I like wildlife. I'm a duck hunter and such. And I used to go to all the TOFCA. It used to be TOGA, and it's TOFCA now, Texas Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association. I used to go to all the conferences and stuff, and I was a past officer and such and all in there. And there was a gentleman one time that gave a talk there. I can't recall his name. I have his book at home, and he signed it for me. Nice guy. Anyhow, and he talked about leaving riparian areas, if that's the correct term, along the creeks and the streams. Because a lot of people will go into their farmlands and they'll just denude the whole thing of everything growing there and then put crops out. And this guy, he thought for the wildlife, because there's plenty of wildlife out there, and when you take all their food and shelter away, they're up the creek. With the creek, they're up.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, so he proposed leaving a riparian area along the creek beds and the river beds and all that stuff and all. So that's where somewhere along the line I threw wildlife into the name of our farm and ranch.
I see.
Because I support wildlife too.
Sure, and you've got some creek on that place that I see where you're bridging those two. I see where you're talking about.
Talking about that creek, that's one of the things about this ranch deal that we have here. It is, man, it's just so ideal. You know, if I wasn't 77 and my kids are almost out of college and I'm ready to go fishing, you know. So, and my children, they don't want to do farm ranch business right now. We got 72 acres where we live. They can do stuff there if they need to or want to. It doesn't take a lot of acreage to make money in farming ranching if you do it right. But anyhow, I'm going to sell this ranch a little half-heartedly because it is such a lovely place. And if I had a whole bunch of money, I wouldn't sell it. Mm-hmm. But it will take me out, and I need to be out. I got places to go back to. I got places I hadn't been to yet, and I want to go to some of those places. I want to go to Scotland especially. That's where my roots come from. And anyhow, this place that we have for sale, it is ideal for growing, for habitat. It's got a wet weather creek that runs through it. The water doesn't run all the time, but it carries a lot of water. It has the surface structure of the ranch is tilted, not much, but gently on both sides of this creek. So it carries so much water down there that there could be made reservoirs and ponds and a lake for recreation, for irrigation, for animals to drink. If you don't have water in Central Texas, you're SOL, buddy. You know, you got to have water for the animals, for the crops, for the everything. So without it, you're sunk. I mean, dry weather, whatever they call it, farming and ranching, it's not happening. So anyway, this place, it's got great soil. It's got, sandy loam soil. It'll grow anything that this climate will permit, anything from, grapes to, berries. I grow blueberries, and they grow out there for sure. It'll grow any kind of grass crops. It'll grow any kind of orchard. It'll grow anything that this climate will permit. And if you have water there to feed those crops, that is a bonus. That's utopia. Mm. So that's one of the things about the ranch that is going to be sold that is ideal. And I hate the idea of it being turned into, a whole bunch of home sites. Nothing against anybody. And if they want to do that, that's the way it is. I'm going to sell it. I am going to sell the place. I hope that I can find some land trust or somebody that would buy it and hire a farmer. And we can maybe help find somebody like that. But anyway, just an individual, somebody that will nurture the land and have their brother or sister have part of the land. There's room for that out there too, maybe there's plenty of room. And there's no restrictions. You can build a castle or you can put up a teepee and live on it. It's no restrictions there. And it's ag exempt. I mean, the taxes are like $160 a year. Hello? And anyway, it's all-weather road going to it.
It's a pretty place.
It's got good fencing. Oh, this is something, too, that Bill Muma and those people, he especially noticed it. He's a bright child, let me tell you. Because all the other, and nothing against my neighbors or anything, they're wonderful people, but all their land was dead-looking. When we were there, it was brown and dead and nothing growing and all. Our place is green. The grass wasn't very high because we'd had a drought, this past year. But it was still green. And that was so noticeable. It was daylight and dark between our land and some other land. Mm. And that carries through the year. That's perpetual there.
Stays green most of the year with a little bit of rain. Just need a little rain and it'll stay green most of the time.
Totally. Yeah. Guaranteed. It really, really does. I mean, like in that instance when they were there, by now, it's probably 2 months ago, I guess. I don't know. I could find out. But anyhow.
That's great.
I think so,
Chickamauga, good-spirited land. Is that right? That's what you said?
That's part
one
of it.
It
means good, native, or spiritual land.
Yeah.
And that's what all land is that way.
That's it.
And it can stay that way if we take care of it. If we abuse it, it won't stay that way. So that's why we've done what we've done, and we're intent on taking care of the land. I learned way back when I was just organic. You feed the land will feed you. And you feed it something good like compost or some kind of molasses or something to feed the microbes and the earthworms and stuff, then you'll get a good product out of it. If you abuse the land, you're not going to get as good a product.
Yes, sir. I think let's land the plane on this. I've got a final question for you.
Uh-huh.
Are you ready? So, final question. If you could send a message to the next generation of ranchers and farmers and landowners, one message to those folks, those that will take the reins of the land, what would that be?
Well, I would say, I have not thought about this, but off the top of my head, whatever that is, I would say go beyond common knowledge, and I would say go beyond common education and get a little bit deeper. It's out there. The information is available. It's out there. I personally will teach anybody that asks me how to grow organically or biodynamically, and I can pretty well prove to them it's a better system. Just from my little experience with growing blueberries and a little bit of a garden, I'm not much of a gardener, but anyhow, and then growing beef, I know the difference. I know the people that sell at the market, and I've eaten some of all of it probably, and I know what is better. I know what tastes better. I know what is better for us, and that's what we need to make this country better. That's what we need. Don't let me. I'm an old crybaby here. I get sentimental with all this because I feel for it.
Sure.
But that's what this country needs. We need to learn how to stay in shape better. We need to learn how to think better. We need to learn how to think, period, and not just act and not just believe what we see on TV or hear in the ag class. We need to go beyond that and continue with our education and our application of making ourselves better human beings, and that comes through the land. Because we eat what we grow, and we are what we eat, and we got to eat better to be better. We'll be better athletes, we'll be better gymnasts, we'll be better mathematicians, we will be better, period. And let's do it.
There you go. You heard it. Go deeper, go beyond, get to the land.
Well,
I like it.
The land's good, and you can grow stuff in flower pots if you don't have a backyard or a front yard or a farm or a ranch. People can grow stuff in flower pots and don't even realize it.
Do what you can with what you've got.
That's exactly what it takes.
All right.
And it's not hard to do. It's not hard.
That's it. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time.
Amen.